We're here at our restaurant row. We're going to be taking you through our kitchen, showing you what chefs use and is it worth it. Our first piece of equipment is this beautiful pizza oven. It was one of those things that we just picked the first one we saw because we don't know much about pizza oven, but it's turned out to actually be epic. Really, really good. Definitely recommend it, definitely worth it. It's about $5.5 grand for this one. Ticket rail. This is where in service, use these to hold your tickets. Hey, you're all right, buddy, come on. Don't mind them, smile. Anywhere ranging from like £20 to sort of 40, 50 pounds for the larger ones. Is it worth it, professional setting? Yes. Would you get it at home? If you're a weirdo, maybe, yeah. Put your to-do list on there. You would spike it on the ticket and call service. No, I'm only joking. That's about £2. Is it worth it? 100%. Would you have it at home? Bit of kale, 10p. Ticket machines, essential bit of a kit. They always go wrong. Anywhere between £300 or £400, 100% worth it. This is a combination oven, meaning it can steam and roast and do all sorts of magic tricks, jump up and down, turn around. It is an essential piece of equipment in the professional kitchen. The oven itself will cost you about £8,000. This one is outside of the extraction, so you have a special hood on the top, which is called an ultra vent. And that will cost you about four or 5 grand. So altogether, you're looking at sort of, 12, 13 grand just for this one piece of kit. I would say it is worth it. It is premium. You do end up spending a fortune on these ovens, but they do a lot. This is a built-in turbo self-filtration fryer. We have opted for the turbo version, which basically brings that temperature up. It has a boost that kicks in when a cold product goes in to bring up the temperature up quickly to the desired, to what the temperature's set to. It also has a filtration kit in it, which means you can, as it drains, it filters the oil and pumps it back into the basket, meaning your oil life will last longer. This will set you back about £4,200. No matter how good equipment you buy, it still breaks. It still needs monitoring, it still needs money being spent on it, whether you're buying a £4,000 fryer or £2,000. Is it worth it to get all those little add-ons? We're going through the same process of rebuilding the kitchen at Fallow right now, and I'm not going to opt for the added extras. Is it worth it for home? No. However, they do tabletop single basket units that will be about 8 litres, and they are pretty swanky. We've got flat trays, different shapes and sizes. These are kind of the 2 generic sizes that you'll see around. These will cost you about £8 to £10. These are a little bit more expensive than these. These are what everyone uses. I don't know why, because it's a really weird, shitty shape, oval. This is why I prefer this one, because they all match up. I actually would use these at home. They're good for just sort of like resting things on or chucking things in the oven, go for the dishwasher. I actually would have these sort of things at home, and they're durable, they'll last forever. This is what we call a gastro. And this is a 1-1 gastro. So this is the standard size. So this is called a 3rd pan, because you can get 3 within a gastro. Then you have a 9 pan, because 9 of them fit inside this tray, so it'd be 3 by 3 by 3. Chefs trade with these, like you'll see all the chefs will be hiding these all around, inside cupboards, on the shelves, like they take them home with them, like this is literally gold. These will cost you about sort of, in the region where you're buying them from, £4 to £6, give or take for one. Probably have about 300 or 400 of these in rotation at once. Mixing bowls, again, super useful, pretty cheap in the grand scheme of things. They're not gonna break like your glass ones will at home. I would have metal ones at home. I would recommend them. Again, if you buy them from an online kitchen supplier, like a commercial one, they'll cost you no more than £6-7 really for these. You go to a fancy kitchen shop, you'll be paying fucking 20-30 quid. So would highly recommend metal bowls. Blowtorch, you see this all the time in the videos. They use these at dinner, and that's where we got the idea to use them from, but they're fucking great. We buy these from a plumbing website, but the canisters of gas are about £9, and then the tops are quite expensive because they're sold as 2 separate things. The top is about £60. We use it for helping to sear things that are on an uneven surface, like cod's heads and stuff like that. I would actually really recommend them. They're really cool. Every fine dining chef's favourite piece of equipment. Not really necessary. Depends how busy you are, really. If you get super busy, you end up not using them anyway, but when you're quiet, you seem to use them. God only knows now. £10 probably. Probably the most used piece of equipment in the kitchen. 25, 30p. For some reason, no matter how many we buy, we never have any. Prime example, 1 spoon in the spoon. We use this for everything. Basting meat, tasting sauces, tasting everything. We're always driving into the chef's, taste all your garnishes, make sure you're tasting through service. This is a plancha, and it's basically, this is electric. You've got your temperature at the front. It's operated in 2 sides, left and right. Really good for searing meat. Obviously we don't do our meat on them, we do our meat over the grill. But these sort of things are actually great for cooking meat. Really good for searing vegetables. We got this as a set, so we've got a plancha and a deck oven. And you wouldn't necessarily, this would be more for like just heating things up in service that don't require delicate cooking. Probably one of the most valuable bits of kit is 10 grand for both. Overkill at home, yeah, potentially. But if you've got the space, a little plancha can be fucking great. So on the pass section, we have the hot cupboard. Very simple. Just keep your plates in there. Means you're not putting things onto cold plates. Means your food stays nice and warm. That whole thing is probably about 3 or 4 grand. Massive overkill for home. Essential for a busy kitchen. These are about sort of 15, 20 quid. We use those for heating up little portions of stuff. So we might heat up small amounts of puree in there. Actually quite useful for home sometimes. Obviously you're not going to cook your spaghetti bolognese in there, but they're quite handy if you're doing little bits and bobs. Temperature probe. Some chefs are a bit funny about probes. Does it take away a bit of the skill from the chef? You know, potentially, but you could also say the skill is to serve the customer the best possible food. If this helps you to do that, then why wouldn't you? Probably around 25 quid for cheaper ones, but they can range all the way up to sort of 60 to 80 pounds for a better brand. Definitely recommend getting them at home. They're really good presents for Christmas and stuff like that, birthdays for the home cook. And either side of the grill, we have 2 rise and fall salamanders. Expense-wise, this would cost you about £2,000. I would say this is not worth it. And I wish I hadn't put them in. They are notorious for breaking. So this is our Synergy grill. This is sort of like the life and soul of the restaurant. This is where most of the cooking goes on. Probably the hottest area in the kitchen between the salamander being on, this blaring in your face. You've then got the deck ovens below you, blaring in your legs and your undercarriage. You've then got the heat lamps on this side, so you're really like encased in just heat everywhere. So it's not for the faint-hearted. Some chefs thrive on it, some chefs really, really struggle. Will sweats like a, I'm not gonna say it. This costs us about sort of £10,000 for both. Would you use it at home? Probably not. Run-of-the-mill sort of barbecue or something like that would probably just get the same effect. We have our hot cupboard, or resting drawers, should we say, is probably a better word for it. So we have 3 drawers that can all be individually set in terms of temperature. Slightly different to the other hot cupboard we had, but this is for resting meat. As we get a lot of comments saying, oh, if you rest your steak for that long, it's gonna go cold. Well, you cook your steak and then you'd rest it in a warm place. Every home cook should have one of these. I've got my cast iron pan. You can get them in all different shapes and sizes. This is 24 centimetre. Really versatile, definite recommend. On this side, we've got some slightly bigger pans. So these are sort of all our pans for sort of our garnishes. Again, nice, good quality, heavy pans. This is setting back about 70 quid per pan. So this is definitely on the more premium range. These have lasted us 2 years, no problem, really good looking pans. We've just bought the same ones for Fallow, so I would recommend that. But for this is the only 4 pans I'll ever need for me, personally. I've got my cast iron pan where I can cook, I can sear, versatile, heavy bottom, nice. Then I've got my larger saute pan I can do all my garnishes in. It's big enough to heat sauces up in, big enough to do mash, to do greens, vegetables, whatever, Sunday roast. I then got my smaller saucing pans, and I've got a nice little pan for sort of liquid and sauces on larger quantities. So for us and our operation, this is the selection of pans we need. You can't go wrong with any of those. You could use all of those pans in a home setting and they'd be absolutely fine. So we have different types of chopping boards. This is the chopping board we use for service. So it's like a softer material. So it basically doesn't damage your knives as you're chopping. And they also look much more appealing rather than having red, blue, green, all yellow, all sorts of shit knocking around it. We spent all this money on the design. These fit much more into our service prep. And then downstairs we have the full-on, large, deep, color-coded chopping boards for general, with a high-risk prep. These would be nice at home. Obviously a bit more expensive, but so they're just a very, very good quality product. And if you're into your cooking, I definitely recommend getting one. Come down through the garnish section, we're on the pastry section. This is an under-counter fridge. This will set you back about 900 squids. Is it worth it? 100%. It's sort of the cheapest refrigeration you can get. The main point of difference here is we have the lovely soft serve ice cream machine. We've always joked that it's like an extra chef. Very expensive. It's probably looking at about sort of like 15, 16 grand. It's definitely worth it for us due to the amount we sell. Is it worth it for home? If you love ice cream, then why not? And one thing I forgot to mention is the extraction. So basically it extracts all the smoke. You have to get them regularly cleaned by law. If they're not cleaned and maintained, that's when you can sort of get fires and stuff, but obviously we're heavily regulated. But for our whole system here, it costs us well over £500,000. It's a huge cost, but it's something that you need by law. You can't really operate without it. It's just one of those sort of, it's a building cost. So whenever you're looking into sites, if it already has that implemented, it's a massive, massive savings. Is it worth it? Yes, obviously. I mean, we actually don't get on very well with this system, but it's one of those things you can't just like go, hey, yeah, let's buy a new one. What you do have at home is the same. It's just a very, very, very broken down, tiny little segment of this. Dishwasher here. This will set you back about £4,000. They are probably the most annoying piece of equipment in the kitchen. They break regularly all the time. They need constant maintenance. Is it worth it? Yes. I would probably say I wish I'd bought a better quality one. So that's our filtered still and sparkling water. Essential for a restaurant setting, but it is essential. You know, sort of average machine like that is probably going to cost you somewhere in the region of £4 or £5 grand. You know, you have soda streams and sparkling water taps, you know, for sure. I'm actually looking at, I'd love to get one at home one day. We have glass washing machines under counter here. Very much worth it. Those are about £3,500 each, but they're pretty essential. Most brands are give or take very similar on these ones. This is our wine cold room. So this is on the ground floor, so obviously where we keep still and sparkling. This cold room would cost you somewhere in the region of like £8,000 to £10,000, depending on which brands you go with. You'd have to be a big boozer to have one of these at home, but never say never. So in the main corridor of the preparation rooms, we've got all of our main refrigeration. They're about £1,500 each. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in here. And then we just have them labelled up per section. So we've got hot starters, cold starters, garnish. Is it suitable for home? Can be. You know, if you've got a big house or a big family, like having something like this in the garden, in the garage or something like that can be quite handy. Here we've got 2 big freezers. Well, I say big, pretty big. Not massive in the grand scheme of things, but. So these are built-in freezers. Good brand, you know, with something like that, it's better to go for a premium option, I think, you know, because it's something that's going to be here for 25 years. So this is the butchery section. So we've got 2 separate areas of the basement. So we've got the butchery and we've got the main prep kitchen. Pretty self-explanatory. So this is where all the raw meat, raw fish, and stocks and sauces are made in this area here. This is a pressurized Bratt Pan. You can get, the spectrum goes from, you know, super fucking cheap to very, very expensive on these. There really is a big variance. This is probably one of the more premium options. This is 100 litres. This would cost you about £15,000, and it has all the bells and whistles, so you can tilt the Bratt Pan up and down to empty it. It has pressurized, so you can cook things under pressure, the whole thing. And then it also has different settings for boiling, frying, roasting, and then also deep frying as well. So basically it's just a massive pan. Or our primary uses for this is for making stock. So we would roast our meat in the bottom, we would then roast our vegetables in there as well, cover it with bones, and then we would top it up with water, and then we'd leave it to simmer for 3 or 4 hours. Massive overkill for a home cook, but you know, you can get we can get little mini pressure cookers, which are very, very good. Lots of stuff you can do. We went for portable inductions downstairs because ideally we were going to build in inductions like we had upstairs, like the ones that are built in, but they were just too expensive. We prioritised the upstairs and then thought these sort of more portable inductions they do the job. They're much cheaper. They're about £250 for one. It's cheap and it's cheerful, and it does the job. Would I recommend it for home use? Probably yes. Maybe not that. Maybe you don't need one that big, but equally, it's not crazy expensive. It's a bit ugly for, you know, if you're trying to make it really aesthetically pleasing at home. So we're now in the main prep kitchen. So this is our bigger ice cream machine. So the one upstairs we had was a soft serve machine, whereas this is more of our traditional sort of gelato ice cream machine. Where you'd make a bit more of a traditional ice cream base, and then we would churn it every couple of days. So that would cost you about £13,000. Good, solid, reliable piece of equipment. Very well looked after. Pastry chefs are notorious for looking after their equipment. Not the rest of us. Planetary Mixer. Very, very essential piece of equipment. This will cost you a lot of money, about £5 grand. We use it for everything. There's quite often a queue waiting to use this piece of equipment. You can use it for everything. We make mayonnaise in there, like 30 kilos at a time. We make pastry in there. We make big batches of seasonings in there. Definitely worth it. You wouldn't have it at home, but the tabletop versions are great, and I definitely would recommend having them at home. They're great. You've probably all seen them by some of those very famous brands. Blast killer. The only thing we bought secondhand We bought it for second hand for £2 grand. I think new, I mean, we got a newer version of something like this at Fallow and it was more like £8 grand. So they are pretty punchy. This is actually probably one of the most handy pieces of equipment we have. This is basically a Veg Prep Machine. So you basically, it has a top, you fit in different blades like so. So you have some slicing blades, or you might have grating blades, or you might have crinkle cutters, etc., etc. And you feed the veg through and it slices it out the other side. Basically can save hours of chopping time. Very much worth it. Definitely recommend it for professional kitchen. For home kitchen, this one would be too big, but you can buy much smaller versions. We've actually got a smaller version. Salad spinner. A not essential piece of equipment. Massive waste of time. I actually hate them. I always tell them not to use it, and every time I come here, it just keeps coming back. The kids like it, the kids will play with it. That'll be about 120 quid. Not worth it to me, but I'm sure you'll get a lot of people that do like it. You can buy little mini ones. Like, next up, we've got a dough sheeter, or a pasta machine. Effectively, a massive pasta machine. Very big piece of equipment, very expensive. It's about £4,000. It's incredibly heavy. It's about 200 kilos. It's almost impossible to move it. So now it's there, it basically doesn't move. Takes up a lot of space. So it is worth it. I don't think it's worth it for us. And obviously, there's no use for that at home. But a dehydrator, man, as you can see, not very efficient, not worth it. We use them for dehydrating pork skin. They use it a lot on pastry for sort of dehydrating meringues and slices of fruit. 300 quid for one. So they are handy, they are useful. For home usage, you can get much smaller ones. Very simply, we've got chinois, fine strainers at the top. We've got 2 different sizes of microplane for grating stuff. Very, very useful for home. We've got a whisk. We've got spiders, which you use for taking things out of boiling liquid or boiling oil. So it drains up and drains at the same time. We've got serving spoons, ladles for like sauces and dressings. We've got attachments for the blenders just to help to scrape the sides down. Then we've got spatulas. And then finally we've got sort of like a wooden spoon, but made out of plastic, not wood. So just for sort of cooking and scraping the bottoms of pans and whatnot. All these sort of things are quite handy for home. These would be more in the region of like 80, 90 pounds. Most of this stuff, some of the cheaper utensils would be sort of a lot less than £8. And sort of these more specialist pieces of equipment would be up more at 15 to 20 pounds. So this is our food blender. Pretty versatile piece of equipment, but this is where we're making all of our, quite often we make dressings in these just because it's quicker and easier just to batch it up, blend them, pour them out. This will cost you about £1,400. It is worth it. This one is quite a commonly used one that they might use a lot in homes and stuff around the world actually, to us. It's quite a big brand. There is obviously a lot of other very similar brands that do a very similar thing. We overspec'd the size that we needed for the kitchen, because it was our first real kitchen that we'd properly designed. Just for kitchen equipment and the metalwork, you're about £500,000. Yeah, at Fallow, when we took over that site, like the extraction was already in, the framework of the kitchen was already there. Like we had to put a new floor in and put some new tiles on, but it was the gas pipes were there, the electrical was there, so it was just more like what are we going to slot into that space, rather than this. When we took over this place, there was no walls. Like we put in every wall, we put in the ceiling, we put in the floor, we put in the substrate, we put in everything. I don't think we got it right by any way. I think, obviously this is very, very nice and I feel very privileged to have this, but if you said to me, would you start again? And 100% I would have done it completely different. Yes, restaurant equipment is very expensive because at home use, you have general appliances, which are for general use, whereas in the restaurant setting, you have specific equipment for specific tasks, which are much more precise and get down to the nitty-gritty of certain details. But there are some really interesting little facts and tricks and tips you can take from the restaurant setting and implement it at home and get some wicked results.